Today on Tricro Studios, we do a high gain amp shootout between the Laney Ironheart 120 and the Blackstar HT Stage 100 Mark II. So I'd like to reiterate here that this is a high gain shootout, so you're not going to hear any cleans, any mild breakups or anything like that. This is just high gain geared towards metal. But I do have two sound samples for you today, the first of which is a little bit more balanced of an EQ setting in drop C, whereas the second of which is a more scoop type setting in drop B. Alright, so there you go. There are the two sound samples in the high gain amp shootout between the Laney Ironheart 120 and the Blackstar HT Stage 100 Mark II. It's at this point in the video I like to kind of go over what I've gained from doing a shootout like this. And it was kind of what I was expecting here. The Ironheart, I'm using the internal boost here, so it does kind of get into that high gain territory. It might not be exactly what you're looking for. I find that, I mean, there's so many options with all the push-pulls and stuff like that, but I just find that the mids don't get exactly where I would like to go. Doesn't mean that it's a bad amp or anything like that. I really enjoy it. It's extremely, extremely versatile amp. But I just find when it comes to high gain, it definitely does it, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. And the HT Stage 100 Mark II, again, another amp that's very versatile, and it's an excellent studio tool. It records really well. But when you're playing it, it really comes across as a solid state amp. When you're bringing up the volume, there's no point in bringing this up past noon because it doesn't really do anything. It's just like a solid state amp. The Ironheart here, if you can actually see, my volume is sitting at about 2 o'clock, say about 2:30, whereas the Blackstar, that's sitting at noon because anything past noon doesn't really do anything. And again, with the Blackstar, I think just if it could get a touch louder, and like when you're increasing the volume as well, on any other tube amp, when you start to raise the volume, amp starts to breathe a little bit. The EQs, those frequencies actually start to liven up, and they react a lot better. So where you don't have to kind of go to the extreme to get a lot of high end or some very nice high end. It just doesn't really react that way. So when it comes to, like when you listen to the shootout, when it came to the isolated guitars, which thankfully my Final Cut's starting to act a little bit better, so it's not like kind of just murdering the audio. But when you hear the isolated guitars, especially when the first one, you hear a lot of clarity from the Ironheart, but when it goes to the Blackstar, it kind of sounds like there's a blanket over the speakers, and it also kind of sounds like, you know, did the guitar disappear here for a second? It's just one of those amps where, I mean, in a high gain setting, it surprises at points because it's not supposed to be a good amp. But I mean, it definitely, I don't find that it delivers properly. But again, it records really well. So if you're just listening to the amp and you're not playing the amp, or you know, you're not playing it in the room kind of a deal, that feeling is really missing when, you know, you're striking the strings and you're trying to get a good feel for the amp, and it's just not happening with the Blackstar. That's one thing that if you do see, and these usually do hit the market at very, very low prices when it comes to used. I bought this new. I keep the sticker on there because I'm too lazy to take it off, even though it would take 2 seconds. But what happens a lot of the times is you'll see it listed used for like dirt cheap. And, you know, if you're looking at comparison videos, maybe you might hear like, oh, it sounds pretty good. But that's just one thing. I would not really be able to use this in a live scenario, whereas the Ironheart, all day long, you could use it in a live scenario. The Blackstar, again, you're bringing it past noon. There's no point in doing that for volume because it just doesn't really do anything. So if you do see this amp for a very, very good price, and you're looking for high gain, try it out, and try it out at a loud volume. You slip the guy a 5 spot to play it very loud to annoy their neighbors for, you know, a couple of minutes. just because you need to actually experience that before buying this amp. But if you're not looking to get it for a high gain scenario, it's an excellent amp. For like a studio setup, it's an excellent amp because it is very versatile. It does a lot of different things, and it does a lot of different things very well. It's just, in my opinion, it does not do high gain at high volumes. It's nice because it does have all of the different options, all the different voicings. I end up using OD2 on the second voice quite often if I'm not using a boost. If I'm using a boost, I'll usually go with OD1 on voice 1 to kind of push the amp at that point. But it just, when I was using the TS9 with the boost setting for the Blackstar, it just was not feeling it, and it was just making it a little too fizzy and a little too much high end, and I really didn't want to max out the bass to bring in some sort of overall low-end feeling to it. But anyway, that's really what I gained from doing a shootout like this. I mean, it is kind of, because I have used both of these amps recently in quite a few shootouts, so I kind of anticipate, or I can anticipate what I'm going to overall feel and overall hear for the shootouts, but it's still always nice to run through different amps and kind of do those comparisons to see if there is a surprise that is in the mix. It's just, again, I really do feel, and again, I like the Blackstar. I bought it brand new, so I didn't get it at that dirt cheap price, and I'm happy that I bought that. I do like the amp. It's just, and I don't want to poo-poo on someone's amp, you know what I mean? Because you may have saved up for this amp, you may love it. It's just, I find in a high gain setting, it only records well. It just reacts like a solid state amp. When you're raising the volume, especially past noon, it doesn't really do anything. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm sorry if I'm poo-pooing on your amp.